Hi again. Thank you for waiting so patiently for Chapter 7. Just to recap what we're up to with Chapter 6, Mr. X was getting ready to fund my house finally. It was April already. The closing, I believe, was supposed to be scheduled for March. So we're a month out of the original closing that we had actually gone through and waiting for the funding. So that's happening. There's no work, there's no listings, there's no real estate listings. So I have agents in the office, I have agents outside the office. None of them have any listings. None of them have any work. There's no phones ringing. Mr. X is not on the phone with clients or trying to train the agents that he's paying because he said he wanted to train them and open his book to them. None of this is happening. And I want you to, it's important that I remind you that we left jobs. We left, I mean, we're not kids. We left careers. The agents left brokers that they were with for some time. I left a career to explore this option. His assistant left her career to, get on board and raise this company up from the bottom and be part of something. And so none of this is happening. There's no work getting done. So we all kind of know that there's lies amongst the truth. And that gives Mr. X control. And that's what that was about. There's control there because we are all dependent now on that paycheck. We are all living for that paycheck because we know that there's no commissions coming in, there's no money being deposited, none of this. So that gives him a great sense of, he's the man. He's in control pretty much of what happens with our lives. He's got my house hanging in the balance. Um, he knows that I at this point he is my source of income, um, and everybody else that's working for him. So it's causing a lot of tension in the office. It's causing a lot of just a lot of animosity because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know, if we should stay, if we should leave, what's real, what's not real. So it's a very tense time, um, and he doesn't make it any better because he's really enjoying this whole control thing that he has, um, which is wearing really thin on myself, on a couple of other people. It's really, we're not going to allow it to go on much longer because we'll figure it out. But um, up until that point, I'm walking, like I said, a fine line, trying not to piss him off because when I do, or not even intentionally, um, but when I stay all business and I don't give him the attention that he's seeking from me, my house comes up, my job comes up. So there's that level of I'll pull the rug out from under you because I can, which is, you know, definitely not cool for me. If I didn't have a house back in North Carolina and people waiting on the next move so that the house could be funded, and my family, my kids, my ex-husband, uh, just everything hanging in the balance. If it was anybody else, put it that way, and it was any other situation, it wouldn't even have lasted that long. I would have gone without. I would have gotten another job. But there was a lot hanging in the balance. It was it's almost as if it's not only just very elaborate, it's very calculated because there's my whole life is right here. My career, my job, my kids, my house. Well, career is my job, my house. Everything is right in his hands and he knows it. And I'm the one who allowed it to happen. So I'm sitting and waiting at this point, trying to be nice, as nice as I can be, without snapping, so that the rug doesn't get pulled out from under me, because that's where he's at with it. With um, I'll just take it all away. But there's nothing to take away, in all honesty, because nothing's, except for my paycheck, there's nothing else has happened. It's just been a lot of jumping through hoops with no outcome. So we also have the contracts on the apartments. Um, my apartment on Lafayette, which is beautiful. Um, which still has no deposit on it. I have the agent that's handling the apartments that he put in contract to buy coming to me. We're talking almost every other day. Mr. X doesn't know it because we're trying to piece things together ourselves, asking each other questions of what's going on so we could figure out what's happening. She's come to the realization that she's not going to end up closing these deals. But like everybody else, she wants to hang on to that little piece of it. It can't all be. It can't all be bullshit. Some of it's got to be. Something has to be real. It's just too elaborate, too much. Um, and I still have my daughter at home. I'm getting ready to go back home because she's still, her and her father are still not getting along. Um, it's just, and you want to chalk it up to just, teenage girl stuff that, daddy doesn't understand, but mommy will. So I'm feeling guilty about that because I'm 600 miles away and I know she's having a hard time there. And I really don't know what's happening, what's going on, what she's feeling, why she's not little. I mean, she's not a grown up, but she's not a baby. She's at this point, my daughter's 17 years old and graduating high school. So talk to me. What's happening? So I want to go home and get to the bottom of that. But I have all this stuff going on in New York City. Then I come into work one day at this time, and on my desk is a brand new iPhone. Now I told you Mr. X sent me an iPhone as part of the incentive to come work for him. He sent me a new iPhone 6. He sent my kids a new iPhone 6. This was part of you're going to be part of something really special, really great. This is going to be a great fit for you, enticement to get me to take the job. So now I have this other iPhone sitting on my desk because even though now Mr. X is paying and has provided phones for all the agents, for his assistant, for everybody that's involved at this point, the executive partners, his family. He has provided iPhones for everyone, put them on his business account, except I refuse to be put on his business account because I don't work like that. So I said, well, if that's, I'll take care of my own phone bill. He said, no, it's a business expense. You have to put it on my phone bill. No, if it's that important to you, then I'll expense the bill and you can reimburse me for it. So he brings in this iPhone and he puts it on my desk and he tells me that I have to start using it. It's on his account. He's requiring me to be on his cell phone bill. Now, I have 2 teenage daughters. If you think that I don't know how to go online and see who they're talking to, what time they're talking to, find my iPhone, see where they are, I'm a mom. Of course, I know how to do these things. Of course, I check and see where my kids are and that they're supposed to be where they say they are. So I know that there's no other logical reason that Mr. X would feel so adamant and so disturbed that I will not put my phone on his bill. He's asking me questions like, are you seeing anybody? It's none of your business. Are you still seeing so-and-so? None of your business. I was just wondering. I know, and I really do know, that he wanted me on his bill so he could see who I was talking to, what numbers I was calling, when I was calling them, how often I was calling them, and very possibly do a Find My iPhone search and see where I was. And I wasn't falling for it. So I refused. That phone stayed on my desk for as many days as it needed to be there. I refused to be on his bill because I knew that that's what it was. There was no work. There were no customers. There was no conflict with me using my personal phone or my cell phone, which I've used for business for, I don't know, 20 years. All of my old clients had that number. It was never an issue, so I don't understand why I needed to be on his bill. So everything like that, when it came to things like that, where I would push back and say, no, I don't think it's necessary. I'm not doing it. I'm keeping my number. I'm keeping my phone. I'm not carrying two phones. There was no need for it. We don't even have any work. We don't even have any customers. So it was the only logical explanation. But every time I would push back on something, a request like that from Mr. X would get an attitude. And then I would have to deal with the attitude. I was, obviously not cooperating. And then maybe I wasn't the right person for the job. And what job? There's no job here. I have a website that I can't even finish because I have no listings. I have realtors that are in the office that have nothing to do. There's nothing. There's no work here. So how am I not the right person? I'm definitely not the right person. But how do you feel like I'm not the right person for this fake job? So again, I'm pushing back, but I'm trying to keep my cool at this point because again, the house is getting funded, and I have a lot of people counting on me keeping my cool because they too want to believe that somebody isn't, messing with their life either. So I push back when I need to push back, but I stay calm and I make light of it a lot. Like Mr. X would call me and say, well, what's going on with your phone? Nothing. You just called me on it. It works great. No, your other phone. Oh, it's still sitting here on my desk. I didn't get to it yet. And I would laugh because I wasn't budging on my position on it because I knew why it was important to him. But I wasn't being nasty about it or mean about it either. So I was trying to really toe the line with that. Um, the tension in the office was starting to grow because the more that I pushed back and the more that I didn't give him the personal attention, I didn't go to lunches, I didn't have any alone time with him or personal time with him, which is what he wanted, the more that I would refuse to do that, um, the more he would cause problems in the office. He would call one of the agents in, and it was almost like he missed out on, or he didn't know how to have in high school to have like cliques. It was almost like he was trying to form cliques, and I really wasn't into it. Like I'm way too old for that, and I'm way too good at what I do for a living to worry about um, that crap. And there's nothing going on. It's not even real. So you have to, in the midst of all of this, you get caught up in the office politics, and then you have to stop and say to yourself, well, wait a second, this isn't even real. We're not even doing any work. So you have to stop yourself and say, just let that happen and let that go because it's not real. There's no human resources department that's going to come. There's no, nobody's going to write you up. It's not going to happen. So, but the tension, again, we're all depending on this for our paycheck because we all know that there's no commissions coming in. All the other stuff is not happening. So it's enough to build tensions between people because it's almost survival of the fittest at that point. So I go back home because now it's my 10 days to go back home. I go back home, and while I'm home, um, I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my daughter, why um, she's just getting in late to school. She's not motivated. And this was the girl that was supposed to graduate early and go on to college, and now she's got no motivation to even finish her last course. She needed one credit. So I needed to find out what changed, what's happening. So I'm trying to figure that out. And teenagers, they're not always so forthcoming, so I'm trying to figure that out. Plus I'm trying to stay in touch with what's going on in New York City because I'm technically supposed to be working because I'm getting paid. I'm just working from a different remotely from a different location, but it's kind of hard when there's no work going on. So Mr. X calls me up. This is an example of some of the tension. Mr. X calls me up because now he's pissed because every time I went back to North Carolina for my 10 days, he would get aggravated that I wasn't there. Um, and so he's aggravated. He starts like early in the morning, calls me up, and he says, "What's the deal with Agent X or Agent A? We'll call her, because I'm paying her $100 a day, but am I right am I right to understand that we were only paying her until she took her broker test?" I said, "Well, that's how I remember the conversation, but..." He's like, "Because she thinks that I have to keep paying her." I said, "Well, do you have a need for her to be there? You said you were going to train her. That's why she's been there. You were going to train her and open up your book and give her some listings, and you haven't done that yet." He's like, "Well, no, I think it'd be beneficial to have her in the office because I do want to, show her a few things. I do want to start like a training program with her." Okay. Well, if you feel it's beneficial to have her in the office and to continue to keep her on payroll, then it doesn't matter what the initial conversation was. Then you continue to have her on payroll. "Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay, thanks." So just questions like that you're supposed to be CEO of a company. I mean, you don't need to check with me. If you need somebody to stay on, you need them to stay on, period. But anyway, then as the 10 days is going on, as I call the office to check in with the agents, with the assistant, with Mr. X to see how everybody's doing, what's going on, I'm feeling this tension. Like, very short, one-word answers, nobody being overly friendly, just matter of fact. So something's going on, and I keep saying, "What's up? What's the matter with you guys?" Nothing. All right. I have a lot going on at home. Again, I'm living out of a suitcase. They're living out of boxes. We're waiting for the house to get funded. My ex-husband wants to know what's going on. Why am I sitting here in limbo like this? So there's tension between him and I, which there usually isn't, to be honest. And so we're fighting, we're arguing. My daughter's is in complete chaos, not coming home on time, not getting up on time. Um, cars running out of gas, cars going on fire on the side of the highway. Just total chaos going on the home front, and then just total feeling of something else is going on in New York City. But I'll deal with that when I get to New York City. So I get through my 10 days and I go back to New York City. And Mr. X says to me that he's upset because I don't spend, while I was away, Agent A and his assistant and Agent B, they helped him do a lot of things. They help him out a lot physically, and I don't do that for him. And that's a level of trust that he has with them now that he doesn't have with me. I don't really understand how taking him up to an ADA accessible bathroom at 45 years old is a trust issue, but this is what he's telling me. So now he doesn't trust me as much as he trusts the other people that he works with, and he was supposed to be able to trust me. They really stepped up and did a lot for him and helped him out physically. But that's great because you know what? That means that I hired good people. So while I wasn't here, stuff was getting taken care of. So then you should trust me because I have good judgment in who I hire. So he asked to speak to me. He wants to come one night to my apartment on Hanover Square so we could have a talk. Absolutely not. Why? Because that's where I live. That's my apartment, and I'm not comfortable with that at all. Well, but I pay for that apartment. Okay, but I live there. You pay for it because it's in my contract. And you don't pay for it so that you could use that as a reason to pop in anytime you want with any excuse you want. I'm not comfortable with that. If you want to talk, we could talk. Okay, well, I just feel like there's tension in the office. Now, I have no idea where this is coming from. I just came back from my being away 10 days in North Carolina. Tension in the office. I said when I left, there was no tension in the office. I mean, as far as the girls and I were still trying to figure out what was going on, and we knew that there was something very, very off with the whole situation, and it was tense, but there was no tension between us, except for the shit that he was stirring constantly, which we were kind of getting hip to that too. the whole control thing. So um, I said tension. I said when I left, I said goodbye to everyone. Everyone was fine. I checked in. It wasn't until I was there like halfway that I started getting these funny vibes. So what's going on? Why is there tension? Well, the girls just feel like, um, that they can't trust you. I said, they can't trust me. I said, what is all this talk about trust? And I want you to keep in mind, and I know while I'm telling this story, it sounds interesting, but there's no work. You have to keep that in mind because even when you're in it and I'm having this conversation with Mr. X, it's on the tip of my tongue to say, dude, this is so fucking not real. So what are you giving me a hard time about right now? So, but I can't. I have to stay cool. So then, girls don't trust me. That we all go out and we do things. We do lunch and like we went out for drinks one night, a happy hour across the street, and you don't come, and so it's kind of like you're not being a team player. Okay, so this is where we're going with this. Mr. X is not happy because I won't do the out of office after hours excursions with him, which is probably the only reason why he's planning them, is because he's hoping that I'll come along and he'll get to spend time with me after work. And I'm hip to that, and I'm not doing it. Not even a little. I'm not saying that I've never gone out to for drinks with my coworkers or out for dinner with my coworkers. I've done that plenty of times, but this is way different. I understand the motive. I understand the calculation that's going into it, and I'm not feeding into it, so I'm not doing it. And so he's aggravated that I won't go out and do the things that he plans with everybody, and so this is his way of getting, snotty or bitchy with me because I won't do it. I can't be trusted. So now the office, it's causing tension in the office that I don't go and that I don't do these things and I'm not a team player. The office about nothing. Okay. I'll tell you what. I said, I will go. I mean, we went back. This was like an hour's conversation. I said, I'll tell you what. If it's really that big of a problem, I said, we'll do a team building dinner where I'll plan a dinner and we'll go. I said, well, Agent A, because I lived in at that point in the city in Hanover Square. I said, Agent A doesn't live in the city. I'll see if she'll come in on a Saturday, and we'll do it on a Saturday night. Oh well, I better ask her. He says. I said, why? Why can't I ask her? She's mad. She's upset with you. She's really upset with you. Why is she upset with me? Oh, well, because, I think she misunderstood after I spoke to you on the phone last week about her getting paid, weekly still. And I told her we weren't going to pay her anymore, that she started crying and she got upset. And I told her I spoke to you. I said, but that's not what I said. I said, if you have a need to pay her, I said, real estate agents work off commission. But you told her you wanted to train her. You told her you were going to give her listings. You told her you were going to open your book. None of that was done. I said, if it's beneficial for her to stay on as a paid employee, then keep her. Keep her on. And you said, you're right. It's a good, it would be beneficial. So he's like, no, I know that. Okay, so if you know that that's what I said, why is she upset with me? Why did you let her believe that I was cutting off her lifeline at that point? See, this caused it did cause a trust issue because it was almost like we all knew the end was near. So he was making it sound like we were trying to cut each other's throats to stay on top, just to keep our paychecks. It was, it was just the craziest situation ever. And I'm getting more and more heated because I'm the one, because he's upset with me, because I won't play along with him. I'm the one that ends up to be the bad guy all the time. And I can handle being the bad guy, but with everything else going on, I'm ready to enough is enough already. Every time I turn around, I'm getting hit with something else. So not only am I not a team player and I'm causing issues in the office about nothing, but now the other agents and the assistant that work in the office are really upset with me. So he says, I'll handle it. Okay. So the next day, I go into the office, and I mean there were things that happened in between that is just um, it's relevant to me, but it probably wouldn't be too relevant to you. But there was a lot of this going on. That was one specific example of it, but it would go on every single day. And so the next morning when I went in, I I said, I'm just gonna keep to myself. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna get myself crazy and irritated and excited. I'm just gonna keep to myself. So I had my earbuds in from the subway, and I got to the office, and I really wasn't talking to anybody. I just went to my desk, went to my office. Nobody was really talking to anybody. People were just going about their business, but there was no work to be done. So we're all trying to look busy and trying to act like we're not bothered by any of this. Like we don't know, we all don't know what's happening. Um, and the agent A is there, and I know she's upset with me, but I haven't said anything to her yet. His assistant's upset with me because he's pulled the same crap on the assistant. He offered to buy Agent A's house for her. Just a whole bunch of shit that he spun while I was gone. So the assistant at that point, because her and I had are friends, but there's tension between us, and it's worse because we were friends before. So it's even worse because we're like, like nothing is worth this, nothing. And right now nothing is worth being at somebody's mercy because you let them put you there because you believe this bullshit. But you still want to keep believing it because it's you're already so deep into it. So he calls me in Mr. X and into his office. I said yes. He says, well, my assistant is leaving. I said, what do you mean? She's leaving. She said that she's uncomfortable here, so she's leaving. And you need to fix this because she's uncomfortable because of you, and you're making it a very tense work environment. Work environment. At which point, I have just had enough. Enough. I stood up. I walked out. I said, you know what? I'm going to make this easy for everybody. I'm leaving. I am not fucking doing this anymore. I don't care. You are not going to fund my house. Because there was another excuse. We were delayed another 3 weeks on the house. You're not going to fund my house. You never intended to fund my house. This is all bullshit. And I am not fighting or getting myself aggravated and playing these little high school games with you. I'm leaving. No, no, Lori, you can't leave. You can't leave. I did this all for you. Well, you shouldn't have. You really shouldn't have. Because I'm done. I'm out. And I walked. I went back to the office, grabbed my laptop bag, grabbed my stuff, headed towards the subway. I was done. I was out. So at which point, my friend, who was his assistant, called me and said, well, what happened? Because he told me X, Y, and Z. You said X, Y, and Z. I said, no, I didn't say any of that. I said, I am so done explaining myself because I've tried to explain it over and over again that he is manipulating the whole situation because he likes having this kind of control and nobody's listening to me. But I'm done. Figure it out. Well, if that's what's happening and you're being honest, then why are you leaving? Because I just don't feel like I need to explain myself. I feel like I've known you for a really long time, and I'm just tired of him uh, starting up some bullshit, and everybody's like, oh, okay, it must be true. It's not true. So I said, you know what? At this point, she's saying, well, if it's not true, come back and talk about it. Don't run away from it because it looks like it is you. Okay. You know what? Meet me across the street. Grab Mr. X. Wheel him across the street. Meet me at Cassidy's. I'll be there in 5 minutes. I just got the subway. I'm coming back. Oh, you coming back? Yeah, I'm coming back because I have nothing to hide from anybody. Okay. So I get to Cassidy's. Still waiting for them to come. Now it's I invited everybody. Come to Cassidy's because now I'm gonna enlighten you. I'm gonna let you guys all in on it. So They come to Cassidy's. By the time they get there, I'm 2 martinis in. My nerves, I'm shaking. I am really trying to keep my cool. Um, and I can tell by their faces that they're just as irritated and they're trying to keep their cool. And Mr. X is just sitting there because he knows he's about to get it. So, my friend, who's his assistant, she had thought we were going to, talk it out, me and her. And no. I said, this really isn't about you and me. I said, we need to start from the beginning. At which point I turned my chair towards Mr. X and I said, I'm going to start from the beginning. When I get to a point where I'm not telling the truth or something isn't real, that what I'm saying, you need to stop me and correct me. If you don't stop me and correct me, it's because everything I'm saying is the truth. And I, just like I went through it, you guys, I went through everything from his hand being on my knee at Madison Square Garden during the Big East tournament to coming in and watching me work, to asking me if I was seeing anybody, to wanting to uh, have me on his phone bill so that he can see where I'm at and see who I'm calling. Everything. I called him out on Agent A. I said, now she's sitting right there. You tell her. Is this not what I said? No, that's what you said. She must have, no, nobody misunderstood. I said, I don't know what game you're playing, but it's over. It's done. We're done playing this game. And so I pretty much sat there. I called him out. And he kept saying, after all I've tried to do for you, after all I tried to do for you, this was supposed to be a job. Like, I don't understand why you felt like you needed to do anything for me. So, um, in the end, I was really highly aggravated. Cassidy's asked me to leave because I really lost my shit. And I just pretty much told him, enough. It's enough. And if you're not careful, I said, I will personally make sure that that you lose everything the way that I did. I will personally see to it. I was very upset. I was very heated. Um, I said I will call your ex-wife and make sure she has half of your hidden money. I will call your wife and let her know everything that's going on. I will have them on speed dial if you don't back off and put this to rest right now. Anyway, so I was, like I said, really upset and loud. And Mr. X just sat there crying. Crying. Like, this was just a game to him. This was my life. He was crying. So I got up, I walked out, and I left. And I left them sitting there. And Mr. X not only got sick after he left, but he was physically sick. He was crying, and he really admitted he had to everything that I was saying. I called him out about everything that I knew. Of course, he kept saying the house is going to get funded. You're just so worried about that house. That's all you care about. Well, it is what I care about. I don't care about your dinners. I don't care about your lunches. I don't care about your personal activities after work. I haven't even, up until now, said anything that there is no work. We're all playing along with this little facade. I haven't mentioned to you that I know you live in a rent-controlled apartment, which I did that day. Tell everybody. Tell them where you live. That you don't live in apartment 123 in the penthouse. That you live in apartment 456 in Soho in a rent-controlled apartment on the second floor, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but you lied. Tell them if I'm lying. So I called him out on everything that I knew. I also knew, however, in the back of my head, that there was money in the bank and we were getting paid. There was a lot of money being spent. So still there was some of it had to be truths that I didn't know. I didn't know what was lie and what was truth other than what I knew for sure, which is what I was calling him out on. So I left. That's it. I quit. That's it. I'm done. So I get to the subway. I go home. The next day, I'm like, shit. My daughter's about to graduate high school. I have a graduation party going on. I have bills. I have a mortgage. what am I going to do now? So I know my mentor said I could come. I told you I spoke to him. He said he'd have a job for me when I'm ready. But I'm still here in New York City. So Mr. X calls and asks me, he says, "You threatened my family." I said, "I never threatened your family. I threatened to call your family and tell your family, but take it however you want it. I don't care." I said, "But this shit cannot go on." So, no, you're right, and I'm sorry. Um, I never ran an office before, and I was just really upset when you were gone. But you can't be. I mean, that's part of my work. What I do, I work here, then I work there until you fund the house, and then my daughter can move here in New York City, and I don't have to worry about going back and forth anymore. That was the plan. That was your plan. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Can you come in and we'll talk about it? You really scared me yesterday. I scared you. You don't even know. I didn't even unleash everything that I wanted to unleash. So I ended up at this point. Um, I had quit. I didn't know if I wanted. I said I don't know if I'm going to come back. Um, I just don't. I don't know. Well, if you come in, we'll talk about it. Okay. I said, because I need to go home because I need to sell my house. If you're not going to fund my house, then I need to go home and I need to figure out how to get it back on the market because it's in contract now. I mean, it's closed already. I need to figure out how to get it back on the market. I have to get a job and I have to fix my house because I can't sit here with my house in limbo and everybody else there in limbo and not know what's going on while my kids are there. Obviously, they need me. I'm not there because the house, and they're not here because the house isn't funded yet. I understand, I understand. I hope you come back. By the next day, by noon, I went back to Mr. X's office and we sat and we had a long discussion about me losing my shit in Cassidy's, about me calling him out, about the house, and about me needing to take some vacation time at this point. I've been there for 3 months or 2.5 months. I get 5 weeks vacation. So my next 10 days back, I request that I take a week's vacation. So I'll be in North Carolina for 15 days instead of 10 so that I could get the house done. Or maybe even a few days more if I needed it. Because at this point, I'm holding him responsible for the fact that I now have to go sell a house that he's supposed to fund, which he's still telling me he's going to fund, but I just don't have the patience to wait for the funds to come through. So that's where I'm going to leave you um, with Mr. X. And so in the next chapter, I'll explain to you about what happened um, when I went back to North Carolina, and then ultimately what happened when I never came back from North Carolina in this next trip. Um, and it's the beginning of the end of the job about nothing at that point. So we'll leave that for chapter 8 because I know this got really long and really lengthy, but I needed you to understand all of the tension and all the things that were going on at this point. How do you take somebody's life? Okay, you take every aspect of their life. These were the things I was most proud of. I was most proud of my home. I was most proud of my children. I was most proud of my career and the work that I had did to get to the place that I was in my career. I did that, and I was very proud of that. And for somebody to come in and take everything that you're proud of and to put shame in it because of where you ended up being. So after all the hard work that I put in for the job, for with my kids, with all of it, it was all falling apart. It was all a mess. And so the things that I was most proud of were now falling apart and becoming things I was ashamed of. And so for someone to do that to every aspect of someone's life is horrible and it's mean. And so that's why I'm telling the story, so that people understand that not everybody who presents themselves on social media is kind, or they don't have their own motives in mind. Even if you think you knew this person 25 years ago, or knew of him, or felt like they were harmless, always go with your gut instinct. Okay? But chapter 8, we'll talk about all the other stuff. Thanks, and have a good night.